All right, Mark, welcome to the Meat Mafia podcast. Thanks for joining us.
What's up, dude? Happy to be here.
Dude, this has been a long time coming. I'm really excited for this episode. We were saying before we hit record, I always love to give our listeners a little context to how I met the guest. So I had heard a lot about you guys because I had seen Chris Bell posting about you, Danny Vega posting about you. I think I even saw Rogan posting about you. And then I finally got to meet your team at KetoCon in 2022. And Harry and I were just participants there. And so you have all the little samplers, little handouts, and I tried the ribeye and I was like, I'm not no bias. I'm like, this is the best snack I've ever had in my entire life. I go through the rest of the lineup, have the 6 other ones. They're all fantastic. I think I probably spent like $300 on Carnivore Snax that weekend alone. And then since got to see you at last year's KetoCon, which is amazing, but it's incredible everything that you and the team are doing over at Carnivore Snax. So I'm pumped to dig into it all.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I appreciate it. A lot of KetoCon's always a blast. People coming up 4, 5, 6 times during the event and walking away with product. It's cool.
Well, you guys are offering such a valuable service because something that Harry and I talk a lot about on the show is just keep your philosophy to nutrition really simple. And for me, what's always worked is keeping high quality snacks on me at all times, just because I have a high metabolism. I get hungry really fast. And everything we're doing with Noble Meat Mafia, there's just times where I can't bring lunch into the office. So if I have a bag of this, I can pound this whole thing and I know that I'm good to go. There's so much fat in it and it's just regenerative meat and salt. It's literally as clean as you can get, but you don't compromise on taste. The taste is so good.
Dude, I mean, the quality shines through the caliber of the sourcing. And obviously, we have our process and how we prepare it and it gives it a beautiful texture, but all due credit to the quality of the farmers.
Totally. And I know there's a number of really interesting regenerative farms that you guys source from that we'll definitely dig into. But Mark, I'd love to just learn a little bit more about your background, man, before we get into the Carnivore Snax story. I know that Ritzfit was a thing at one point. I know you were a podcaster. You did a ton of episodes. You had D2C experience. Like, tell me about the backstory of Mark prior to starting this business.
Yeah, man. High school, not a good kid. Just didn't behave myself, man. Got really poor grades, but was a really good baseball player. So there was always that dilemma. It's just like a bad kid that was good at sports. And it was hard for me to navigate high school. And I think one of the reasons I was bad is just because I always had this thought that I was going to figure things out myself. For my life, whether it was financially or where I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. And I think that kind of gave me a little bit of something on my, back that just maybe didn't come out always respectful. So after high school, went and played at a small Division II baseball school, didn't work out, came back home and started working for Costco wholesale, just putting chickens into the oven, man. And then after about 1.5 years of doing that, they asked me to come out and try to sell memberships at the membership desk. And that was really where I learned I was good at something, like really freaking good at something that I didn't know I would be. And that was selling. And I really loved what I was selling. I loved selling memberships. And just started to dig deep on how that impacted business. And then I really got obsessed with business. And I decided to start my own business. And it was called Ritzfit. And it was a cool idea, right? A Costco online. People pay a membership fee. And then I was going to have ingredient experts vet kind of products from these boutique small brands, give them a platform. But also have a podcast where I could bring the creators of those products on and ask them some tough questions about how they source their ingredients and how they made their product. And that was kind of my, I guess you could say my system, right? I'd get them into this podcast and then I'd try to see if they'd be interested in having their product on the website. And I ran that for about 1.5 years, 2 years. I think I only got up to 300 members and I shut it down. It really felt like one of the greatest failures of my life. But during that time, I met about 250, probably upwards of 500 just people that created products and had businesses, right? And a few of them, my favorites, I realized they weren't sending enough email out. I was on their email list and I was like, they're not showing up here. And I got good at email marketing with Ritzfit. I learned how to do it all. And so I just started to pitch my service. I was like, let me do some email for you guys. And before I knew it, man, a 12-year career at Costco, which most like 8 of those years were spent at membership. I was out pretty quickly because I kind of built my own little email business and got some good gigs doing that. And that's where I learned everything I know about e-commerce. So yeah, and I worked for a number of like different companies in terms of just like their size, and learned what worked, what didn't. And I did that for a few years, man, before I was presented with the opportunity to be a partner in Carnivore Snax. And everything I learned there, I was able to avoid a lot of mistakes that I had seen already, been done. So that's what kind of led me to here, man.
That's awesome. It's really interesting to learn more about your sales background at Costco. I actually didn't know that about you. And the reason why I think that's interesting is that, I've gotten to work with you more closely at Snax, and you're such a talented operator that it's really rare to meet people that have both of those things, of like a sales skill set and an operating skill set. I'm curious, from a sales perspective, do you feel like you were naturally good at it, or were there just things that you picked up along the way that made you really proficient at selling?
I don't know, man. I honestly just I love engaging with people a lot.
Yeah.
And I just think that because I love that so much, I feel like I get along with people. I can understand people. And I think that helps on the marketing front. I think that helps on the operations front. I think that helps on the leadership front. I think it really just does start with like really good caliber communication and understanding and empathy and all these things that you hear, all these kind of buzzwords that you hear thrown around. It's just like having the self-awareness of who is in front of you, and what the impact of a conversation has, what the impact of a strategy has. That's just kind of been, I'm just very like self-aware, I guess, in the moment. If that makes sense.
Yeah, so you have a high EQ. I always think it's interesting that we pigeonhole sales into these job buckets, when I feel sales is just a skill set that everyone is doing and everyone should have, regardless of what you're doing with your life or what role you're in, right?
Totally, dude. I agree with that.
So I'd love to dig into the Ritzfit podcast that you were talking about. I'm just curious, how many episodes did you record, and just what were some of your biggest takeaways from the podcast after doing that?
I can't remember if it was 200 or if it was 300. It was one of those. I know that there's a big difference. I just can't remember if it was 200, 300, but it was right on the money because my last episode was 200 or 300 where I said goodbye. But man, I think it was just obviously the greatest benefit is the people that you get to talk to and learn from. And especially if during the conversation, you're not just treating it like a podcast and like listing these questions and you're just bouncing things off of one another on an organic conversation. You just can really learn a lot. I mean, imagine speaking to, and this, 200, 300 people that have started a business. Like, you're going to learn something different from each one of them. And you're going to be able to, if you are self-aware in the moment, and again, you're not going through lists of questions, you're listening, you're practicing active listening, dude, you're going to learn so much. Your brain's just it's going to retain a lot of it.
100%. No, it's such a good point. I always come back. I'm always shocked by the statistic that 90% of podcasts don't make it past the third episode. So if you do 4 episodes, you're already in the top 10%. And I recommend it to a lot of my friends that are interested in getting in the content creation game and don't know where to start, because at a minimum, like you said, it's the best networking tool that's ever existed. Like, someone that's going to push you off to meet for coffee, it's super transactional, but at least with a podcast, they're getting interviewed. It's a piece of digital content for them. You're also going to learn how to speak. You're going to learn how to sell. And the opportunities that come from that are unquantifiable. Like, Noble was really launched out of us doing a podcast, and we're 250 episodes in now. 150 of them are recorded over Zoom with no microphone. Like, we overcomplicate a lot of this stuff. And the way that I understand it, so did you actually meet Sylvia, your co-founder, didn't you interview her in 2018?
I actually reached out to her to do a guest Instagram post on our Instagram when I was running Ritzfit. And she ended up becoming a supporter of that business. And so that's how we met, was before any of that. And then she just reached out to me one day, sent me a message, said, hey, do you know anybody that can make a website? And I was just very curious because she said that she had created a product. I was really curious. I was like, well, why don't you let me try it? Because her and I brought her on to be a guest interviewer when we were doing, because she was doing the carnivore diet. She did it for almost 3 years. Just meat, salt, water, that was it. And so I brought her on as a guest host to start to interview some regenerative farmers and people that were in the meat space. And I mean, we interviewed somebody that we had no idea. We didn't even have a Carnivore Snax idea. We had interviewed somebody that we're now sourcing from, which is really cool. But yeah, that's how we met. And yeah, when she ended up asking me if I knew anybody to make a website, she sent me the product. I tried it, and I was just blown away. And I had to be a part of it. I just wanted to so badly, and so I asked, and here we are.
Well, it's so cool because it seems like the reaction you had to the product was the first reaction that I had, and so many other of my friends and other people that I see had, where it's like, holy shit, this is the best snack I've ever had. And I'm not just saying that because you're on the show. I genuinely think it is the best meat-based snack I've ever had. Did she have Crohn's or something serious that she reversed by going carnivore? Am I making that up?
She's had a lot of health ailments, which is kind of why she found like biohacking before she found the carnivore diet. You know, she tried the vegan diet. She tried the carnivore diet. She goes all in to try to figure out how to optimize her health. And the autoimmune diseases that she's dealt with, she's been able to, carnivore was the greatest thing for her. It cured a lot of her ailments. And since then she's been able to she's not fully carnivore anymore. And she's been good.
Awesome. I know something that Harry and I have been talking a lot about. We feel like we got very fortunate with what we're doing, just because for us, it was almost like we picked each other to be business partners first before there was even a business. Like we did Ironman Waco, and we basically said, we need to find something to work together on. And that's how the Meat Mafia was born. And it seems like you and Sylvia have an amazing partnership. And I'm just curious, was there anything in particular about her that really made you feel like, hey, if I'm going to pick a business partner, this is who I want to go with?
Yeah. I learned through Ritzfit how not to start a business. And she might have not realized it, but she started a business the right way. Like, there is a recipe. People always kind of want the recipe. It's simple. It's like not this like rocket science thing. So if you don't get overly excited by what about the share, I would understand, because it is pretty simple. And you guys have done it as well. You've done it the right way. I mean, you just have to build an audience before you launch a product.
Totally.
You just cannot launch an idea to crickets.
Yeah.
That is the recipe for disaster. And that's what I did with Ritzfit. And with Sylvia, she decided she was going to document her carnivore journey.
Yeah.
It started with biohacking, and then it got into carnivore, and she just built this following on Instagram. And she was early to carnivore. So she was probably, I don't know, I would say she's like a top 12 influencer in that space. I mean, she even did some movie or something, which is in a different language with Sean Baker. I don't even, it's so funny we talk about it because it airs in a different language in the country. But anyway, I mean, she was able to build that audience, and she created a product for that audience. And so for me, it was just like, look, I can sell the hell out of this thing. I mean, I feel like I know enough about e-commerce to make help this thing take off. It's already a good product. So let me just get it into as many people's hands as possible. And so I think it was a perfect partnership. No partnership's perfect. Obviously, we're business partners, and there's things we disagree on and we agree on. And that's just the nature of the game.
Yeah. I mean, dude, she was early into the carnivore diet, because when I was scrolling through Ritzfit's Instagram prior to this, just to do a little bit of research. And when you did either the episode or the post with her, that was like 2018. And really, like, Baker was on the scene. But I remember when I went carnivore in 2019, trying to heal UC, people thought I was out of my mind, and that was 2019, and she was doing it for years before then, which is nuts.
For sure. Yep.
All right. So you love the product, you like Sylvia, you feel like there's something there. So then what are the next steps towards scaling it? I know there was the Kickstarter campaign. How did you guys really go about kicking this thing off and scaling the company?
Yeah, Kickstarter was cool because I had never done that. With my e-commerce background, Kickstarter is e-commerce, but it's its own separate world. And we decided to go that route after talking with many people who've done Kickstarters, who hadn't done Kickstarters. And I thought I had a lot of what I needed to make it a success. I had the right copywriters. We wanted to go shoot our Kickstarter. Everything relies on that Kickstarter video. Yeah. Everybody knows that. And so we decided to go out to who we started with, or who we started sourcing from, which was White Oak Pastures. We went out to the farm and we stayed there over a full weekend. We shot our video, and we did the Kickstarter in April of 2020, kind of during COVID times, and it did well. I mean, we did a couple $100,000 by the end of it, and that was enough to give us the validation. Like, the product is people want this type of product. So it validated the idea. We were able to ship everything out by, I believe, November of 2020. And the website launched sometime in December. And that was it, man. That's how we launched the company. It's pretty wild.
I would think that story has to be inspiring to a lot of people that are listening, because when you look at the brand and the company that you guys have built, it's actually amazing to me to realize, like, damn, you guys launched this thing in the middle of COVID off of a $130,000 Kickstarter, and that's what you guys have built now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's, and that's the thing. It's just like, you gotta, I remember having a conversation like, should we call this off? Should we call this off because of the times? Are we going to feel okay with like taking money during a time where it was like, it was just, the world was in a very awkward place. And we ended up delaying it a month, and then we just decided to make a decision to do it because we talked to people, they wanted it. People needed this product during a time when people were trying to be more healthy. And so that was it. Yeah, we did like 130 in the first 30 days, and then sold about 70 more through some post-purchase upsells. And she made the product by herself while I was across the country, because she lived in Arizona. And then I lived in Columbus, just outside Columbus, Ohio. And she made the product by herself for like 7 months. And I just kind of built the business from the house.
So was she just renting space at a commercial kitchen and just doing everything herself?
She was working alongside of a family member who was making a similar product, but not for human consumption.
Got it. That makes sense. One of my favorite podcast episodes that we've ever done is our episode with Will Harris. Harry and I did a whole road trip back home. We did like 8 podcasts right around Christmas time of last year. And we stopped in Bluffton, Georgia. We stayed at the Pond House, which was the house that him and his wife lived in when they first got married. And we recorded this unbelievable podcast with him. And it's one thing to hear him on a show, and it's another thing to actually see White Oak, see all the employees, and realizing like, damn, this guy's literally feeding hundreds and hundreds of people in his local community. And I'm just curious how that experience was for you being at White Oak.
It was amazing. I mean, especially coming from, I'm looking at the elementary school right out my window right now. And I live in a neighborhood, a cookie cutter neighborhood. And sure, we got like farmland in Ohio, which a lot of it is beaten up farmland because it's just not done right out here. So to go out there and not have much cell phone service, see the amount of people that were contributing to what was regenerating land, and just what they've built is they've built this something bigger than their paycheck. It's clear that there is a vision that everybody's all aligned with there. And you could see it, man. It comes through, it shines through the pasture. It's just, yeah, it was really cool. Just an awesome event. And the people that it brings in too are people that are interested in regenerative agriculture, right? It's not just people that are coming to their markets, like buy meat and stuff. Like, they're definitely paving the way. maybe not paving the way, but they are a very big voice in the regenerative space. There's a lot of people contributing to paving the way right now, and everybody deserves their respect.
Yeah, I just remember when I first started really getting into the space, it was like I went carnivore first. I turned around the foods I was eating. That cured me of UC. Then I started going down the regen rabbit hole and just thinking when people were telling me, hey, you need to go out and shake your rancher's hand and buy your meat directly from them. I was like, this is the craziest concept ever. Cause I'm from New Jersey, New York. I'm sure that there were farms all around me. I just had no idea how to connect with them. And then you go to somewhere like White Oak and you look at their little general store and it's people from miles and miles away that are buying. They don't even go to grocery stores. They just buy their meat from farmers. It's like, that's what it's supposed to be.
Yep. Yeah. It's really cool, man. It's just impressive. It feels like you disconnect a little bit from what this world has become, which has a lot of positives and negatives. So yeah, it's pretty sweet.
Was regenerative sourcing always a huge initiative for you guys? Because I would think from a cost perspective, it would probably be way easier to just get grain-fed beef from a larger farm or somewhere overseas or something like that.
Yes. I think in the beginning, I wanted to instill some of the Ritzfit values because I was still so passionate about like ingredients and just like the best of the best. And initially when Sylvia had come to me, I mean, it wasn't grass finished or nothing for her.
Yeah.
And so I obviously wanted to build a brand. I wanted to build something bigger than selling a bunch of product. And she quickly came on board, and I thought it would be best done through regenerative sourcing because we had learned a little bit through the podcasting what regenerative agriculture was. And we felt like that should be the standard and that should be part of the brand mantra, right? Like that's part of like what we're doing here is we're just trying to educate on regenerative agriculture and create a movement to feel confident in saying yes to meat, which that's our tagline, say yes to meat. There's just no argument. If you are consuming meat that was raised regeneratively, then you can't argue about the environment. Like that goes out the door. Some may say that a grass finished, regeneratively raised animal provides more nutrition. Some may say that, there are books out there that show that that might not be the case. But at the end of the day, we want to create confidence in everyone to say yes to me.
I love that. I'm curious, as someone who is like truly paving the way, a product that's not compromising at all, it's meat, it's salt, it's regeneratively sourced, and that's it. What is your reaction to some of these fake meat companies, lab grown meat companies that are raising millions, if not billions of dollars, have these insane valuations, and they're essentially brainwashing people to thinking that the plant-based way is the healthier future for everyone?
I mean, the reaction is it's just not, it's not right. And there needs to be companies and people to combat it.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing. I can't speak to the state of all of that. I mean, I know that there's definitely some struggles on that side. I mean, they're basically like tech companies. Like that's literally the financial condition of them, which is an all or nothing thing. And it doesn't seem to be going well. People are not stopping eating meat. And we're out to make sure that doesn't happen because we know it is arguably the most nutrient dense food on the planet and humans deserve that.
Yeah.
So do animals.
100%. I would say too, I think when like a lot of how we started to grow the show is just telling stories around the history of the food system as to how we got into the current metabolic rut or crisis, whatever you want to call it, how we got here. I think people misassume that we're negative people, and it's actually the complete opposite. It's more so we're trying to tell the story so we can paint a picture of what's going on. So then you can actually make actionable change and, take autonomy over the food that you're putting into your system. And for me, it's like, dude, when I go on Twitter, not as much Instagram, but more so Twitter. I know you're a big Twitter guy. When I see that alternative health community and I see brands like you on there, and I see these smaller companies like Farmer Bill's, which is a regenerative biltong company, all these other brands that are popping up, it's like, damn, dude, we can really win this thing. It's like, we just need intentional people. We need to put out the right information, and you really just need to vote with your dollar and put it in the right place where, like, you're being as intentional where you're like, look, I'm at 7-Eleven. I'm actually not going to get the Jack Link's beef jerky. I'm going to load my car up with Carnivore Snax. And it's probably going to be a little bit more expensive than the Jack Link's, but it's that good for my health, and it's that good for the environment too. I really think about that.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, the consumer, they obviously have a ton of power with the dollar. I mean, but also, like, on the other side of it, like, businesses, man, they got to work together. Like, we got to figure out how to buy all the animal, right? That's how we're going to get these farmers to be profitable. They got to sell, whole carcass utilization is the term. And sometimes maybe, like, teaming up, like, my brand should know other brands. Like, how can we go and buy together? And then also there's farms out there that want to do better. So we should not be demonizing any farm. I don't care if they are doing it the completely wrong way. They're trying to feed people, and guess what? They're feeding people meat. They are, and meat is nutritious. I think that it doesn't take overnight to be good at regenerative agriculture. There's resources for help and stuff, but I just think that there's got to be a little bit more, I don't know, like a welcoming, like, and make it easier to get people into it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want this industry to be polarizing towards maybe somebody who's practicing industrial agriculture or something that just, like, that's just what they were born into. And I mean, look, Will changed it, right? He started off doing it the absolute wrong way, and he changed it. And I don't know, man, we just got to not focus so much on talking negatively about that way of agriculture, and just figure out how we can get those people on board and appreciate what they're really trying to achieve. And that is making money for their family and providing food for people.
Yeah, it's such a good point, man. We had on Jeff Smith of Colorado Craft Beef. I think we released his episode last week, and he was a really good guest because they're not grass finishing their animals. Apparently, where he is in Colorado, like in the winter times, it's just impossible to feed these cows and keep them alive on grass all day long. And he made a really good point where, look, we might demonize the industrial beef industry. There's good criticisms against it, but if we pulled the rug out on the industrial beef industry, like, we would be having a massive food shortage issue. So you have to meet people where they're at. And also, even just from a nutrition perspective, with me, I didn't have the budget when I started, when I was 24 years old, going carnivore, to eat all regenerative grass-finished meat. I didn't even know what that was. I went to my local grocery store. I got grain-fed meat that was probably grown in a feedlot. And guess what? I still cured myself. So it doesn't mean that we're not saying if you can buy grass-finished regenerative, that isn't good, but you also have to meet people where they're at, and you have to be approachable. Like the Saladino method for me of saying, oh, if you're not doing grass-finished regenerative from day one, you're doing it wrong. It's like, dude, that's not how you're going to have sustainable change, in my opinion. So
yeah, I'm on board with that as well, for sure.
Would you say that with Snax, with the amount of muscle cuts that you guys are buying to make your product, are you a challenging buyer for some of these farms that you work with? Do you think that's a fair word to use?
I would say that's fair to use in our first year, when we're buying eye round and ribeye and pork loin. Like, that's all that's what we launched with.
Yeah.
And then when ribeye outsells eye round by 80 or 90%, absolutely. But we knew that we needed support in the beginning to be able. We had to make money, man, generate sales to be able to invest in new products. So all of this is a long-term game. And now we've probably launched 25, 30 SKUs. We are a very, very exciting customer, because guess what? A lot of people make product that all they're buying is trim. And so we're coming in, and now instead of buying a whole bunch of ribeye, we're leveraging the other cuts to find ribeye. Hey, we will buy the chuck. We will buy skirt steak. We will buy flat iron steak. We'll buy eye of round. We will buy, what am I missing? Brisket. We will buy all of it.
Yeah.
We absolutely need the ribeye, but we make great products that are not just ribeye. Like, those other cuts are phenomenal as well. but you know, our demand for ribeye is so high. So that's how we can leverage. It's just like, as long as we can secure this much ribeye, we will buy this much of everything else. And it's great, man. It feels good because we are buying a ton of the animal, and these purchase orders are, when we submit them, dude, it feels great. It feels great knowing that there is an exchange of funds going to people that are just doing it the right way.
Yeah, man, that's a great point. And I'm sure too, it was super exciting to launch. And like anything else, it's a progression. Like we're talking about nutrition and farming. You're not just going to come out with all these mid cuts. You need to gain customer attention. Customers love ribeye and pork loin. So you start with that. And then very quickly you're iterating and now buying a lot of these mid cuts. And I'm sure now it's an amazing feeling where the farmers are all genuinely pumped up that you're purchasing for them, because you're solving a massive problem for them, is how do they offload a lot of these mid cuts that maybe the average consumer doesn't want or even know about or know how to cook. And you guys can make them taste delicious and sell them to your customers.
Yes, very, very good point. That is one thing that I do like to share. It's like they run into scenarios where like seasonally one cut might not move, or you're right, they just don't know how to prepare a specific cut. And I get it, dude. Like I've messed up so many times cooking steak. You think person buying Carnivore Snax, people buying Carnivore Snax are the best cooks. They're not. We could just make a good, And so you're right, dude. It's just like we can turn a cut that might not be in high demand into something absolutely delicious.
Yeah. Do you think we'll ever see you guys get into the organ space anytime soon? I don't know if you can publicly say that or not, but
I do. I mean, we did a little bit on Wednesday of last week, Thursday. We launched ancestral bison sliders. So that utilizes obviously ground bison, 100% grass-fed finished from North Star bison. And the blend is tongue, heart, and liver. And I am telling you what, I'm so happy about this product because it just is, you can taste the organ meat. Yes, you can. It's just such a very light kick at the end. And it makes it unbelievably tolerable. I've tried many competitors' products that have tried to just dehydrate organ meats. I think the issue is just the dehydration process is it kind of makes it taste more like organ flavor. And so it's really, I don't like it. I just don't like organ meats dehydrated. The only way I like to eat organ meats is actually raw with salt. I think that's the easiest way. There's a couple I can do that are cooked, but dude, dehydration just like exacerbates the flavor, and I can't do it.
Yeah, I feel very similar to you because Carnivore Aurelius was a huge influence on me when I really started diving deep into this movement. So of course I'm like, yeah, I'm going to order his liver crisps on subscription. I just remember trying them for the first time. I'm like, damn, this is like a strong liver taste, and it's really crunchy, almost like the pieces almost cut your mouth a little bit too. And like that ancestral blend that you guys are doing is great because you really don't need that much organs to get the benefit of it. You really can just blend it into a grind and get the nutrients that are in the tongue, the heart, the liver, etc.
Oh, I mean, the nutrition is so bioavailable, and the percentage, which I'm not going to share because of the blend, the percentage of tongue is, there's a good amount in there. Yeah. A good amount.
But the best thing about what we're talking about is when you actually get off of processed foods and you change your diet, it changes your palate too, to the point where that light kick actually starts to taste pretty damn good too, which is amazing. I really feel that so strongly.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, all the foods, the processed foods and the convenient foods, it's definitely tweaked to the human palate, and the human palate may need to be retrained.
Yeah. One of the things that I've actually been meaning to ask you that I've never meant to ask you before is I would love to know how you feel about companies, whether it's like General Mills buying Epic Bar or Kraft Heinz buying Primal Kitchen, like these large multinational big food companies that are seeing the trends. They're buying these smaller niche health brands. Do you think that's a good thing? Is it a bad thing for the industry? Is it just a loaded question where there's probably pros and cons to either way? But just curious how you think about that.
I mean, look, ultimately, we're all working towards the same thing, and that's just to leave this world a little bit better place than how we left it, man. And I believe that, an acquisition of a company like ours, or a company like, the dressing company, what was it? Assistance company.
Kitchen, yeah.
Primal Kitchen. I just think at the end of the day, I mean, if they're going to stay committed to what you created, and there's got to be, during that phase, that's got to be documented in a legal document that they're not going to, they're going to support these farms. Like, I mean, you can put those things out there. They've just got a lot of money and a lot of power to make it bigger, faster. I just think that it's more better than it is not better.
Yeah. I kind of figured that that's what you were going to say. And something that I go back to a lot, because I think when I was really going all in on Twitter, I was a little bit too extreme and like, oh, if you're selling to big food, I don't agree with that. But then I think about, look, dude, if you want this thing to become not niche and accessible to the masses, Primal Kitchen is a great example, because after getting acquired by Kraft, you now can get huge, cheap bottles of Primal Kitchen accessible at Costco. It's like, that is a net good thing that they wouldn't be able to do on their own. So there are benefits to it. And it also shows that, like, dude, if you vote with your dollar and you drive enough impact, like these big companies will pick up on it and they'll want to acquire you as well too.
Dude, if they're able to put you in front of more people, like, that's how the dollars are being shifted away from the alternatives. If Carnivore Snax isn't on a shelf, and we're not in retail, we got a lot of supply chain things to work through before to even entertain that. But let's just fast forward and say we are. If we're there next to, I don't know, Slim Jim, let's really go to the end of it, right? There's going to be some people that grab it instead of Slim Jim. I mean, they're a Costco. I mean, their average, household income's fine. Like, there's gonna be people that just want to try it when they might have grabbed Slim Jim, or maybe they wanted to grab a product that had great ingredients, that maybe supported industrial agriculture, maybe. And again, if it's just there, that right there prevented a sale of something different. And these bigger companies, they've lived in this business for so long, and just, they get it. And you might get somebody that just had an idea to come out with a cool product. They created a recipe. They don't know nothing about business. Yeah. So you got to lean into some of these things if you really want to have your idea make a real change.
Yeah, it's a great point. And one of the things that always amazes me with a lot of the CPG founders that we've gotten an interview on the show is their ability to handle extreme adversity. And I would guess that there's probably someone's natural desire to be like, damn, you guys aren't even 4 years old yet. You're absolutely killing it. You're crushing it. The revenues are great. 67,000 customers. I would just love to know, are there any moments of adversity or low points that turned out to be a really good thing that you could maybe call back to, that you've experienced in these 4 years building out Snax?
Man, dude, there's probably 1,000 in a 3-year period. I mean, yeah, dude, there's been so many hurdles to get over. Again, like, just think about how quickly we grew, and imagine one person making it. That was intense. And then fast forward to now, and imagine having a company with 45 employees. Like, that comes with HR, that comes with leadership, that comes with departments, that comes with management, that comes with legal, that comes with permits and warehouse and square footage. And it's just, everything takes longer than what you think. That's a big thing. You can't, your business can't be reliant on one thing, whether that's one piece of machinery or that's one person. Like, all this stuff has to be built out. And a couple of these things maybe weren't in place as soon as they needed to be. And so, like, a piece of machinery breaking. That prevents you from literally making the product. Like you're out of business. And so, we ran through a couple scenarios with that. And I think the greatest learnings from that, though, is just like anything, even if it doesn't have to do with machinery, like we are so planned out as a company 18 months ahead for everything, like how we're attacking supply chain, how we're making sure that we have backup equipment, how we're making sure that anything, just like everything legal is covered. Like we feel like really comfortable. We're a very strong, well put together company now. And now it's just time to go. It's time to find the meat and go.
Yeah. It's like, you're never going to get rid of your problems. I remember, I think you and I were supposed to have a call like really early in the summer. And I think a little bit before and you're always like really prompt. You never cancel calls. And you were like, hey bro, one of our biggest like regenerative farm brokers, like we're not working with them anymore. So now we need to go find more farms to work with. And I'm like, shit, talk about like a serious business pain point that you need to solve for. But the point is, like, at the scale that you guys are at, the problems aren't going to stop. I guess it's really your ability to handle adversity and just be a great leader, right?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. It's just like typically the bottlenecks that you have in business will always be a bottleneck. It's just like, how do you avoid like hitting it? Like, it's going to be there at a specific point. So what plans right before that can be executed to ensure that it's just kind of moving with you, right? Like, here, we're going to have a bottleneck at this amount of weight that we can source per month. Okay, so what are we going to do? We're going to invest heavily in making sure that we're finding enough to increase that capacity. And so you just got to identify the bottlenecks that would literally stop the business from being able to sell product, and make sure that we're spending full-time energy on ensuring that the bottleneck's moving up as we're moving up.
Well said. We have a good number of aspiring, creators, entrepreneurs, people that want to get in the game and start their own D2C business. Are there any core things that you wish you knew either when you started Ritzfit, started Carnivore Snax, where you're like, damn, that actually would have saved me a lot of time if I knew that back then?
Definitely number one, just to reiterate, build your audience first. And probably worth even spending a minute on it. Just like, look, your example, you did a podcast. All right. I don't know how many downloads you get. You got a great podcast. It's probably tens of thousands of downloads. And that's tens of thousands of people. And you have their attention. And you did it through, how many years have you been podcasting?
About a year and a half.
Okay. Year and a half you've spent. And probably most people that podcast don't make money from podcasting. That's just the nature of the game. Okay. But you have all these people that listen to you that are in probably a nice little niche little bucket, right? You launch Noble. Well, all you got to do is speak into a microphone now, because you've put in a year and a half of blood, sweat, and tears in building an audience. And so again, for Sylvia, all she was doing is documenting carnivore journey every day. What was she eating? What was she doing? How was she feeling? How was her health? She always did like those tests and stuff and like show. And so people would just follow. How much weight, look at Laura Spath. She's an unbelievable carnivore influencer, dude. It'd be just a weight loss journey, right? So she's built this huge audience because she's authentic, and like she could probably launch something and she would have a successful business right now. So that is like absolutely number one. I mean, that's how you get started.
So audience building is the biggest thing that comes to mind for you. And it's funny you say that, because I remember, when we were ready to launch Noble for pre-sale, there's the natural imposter syndrome of like, do I have anything good to sell? Is anyone even going to care? But I'm like, I think we've built a really loyal audience. And then I just launched a tweet thread, just launching the start of Noble Origins. And we did 14K off of one Twitter thread, which isn't anything crazy. But for us, it's like, damn, people care about this. That's all the proof of concept we need. And now we've just kept going.
That's it, man. And that's no easy feat for sure. I mean, especially through just like Twitter, like, again, and you spent a lot of time on Twitter building an audience. And so there, you got a couple platforms to leverage, and whatever it is you're doing, whoever's listening, like you might not have an idea right now, but if you could just become a little bit of self-aware of like, do you have people that are following you for something? And what is that? And can there be a product built around that for those people? Probably. And if you don't have a following, if you are like 0, you're starting your Instagram, account today. What do you love doing? What do you want to share with the world? Start there, build an audience. Maybe you have a business idea right now, maybe you don't. But as soon as you have an audience, you're ready to rock.
Yeah, as soon as you have those eyeballs, you can pretty much do whatever you want. It's like Logan Paul was creating Vines. Now he's got the fastest selling beverage company of all time. It's all about how you convert those eyeballs, right?
Absolutely.
One of the things I really wanted to ask you, partially from my own perspective, but Austin is a very interesting place. And I think there's this tendency to want to really over index on lifestyle and work-life balance. And when I've gotten to work with you, it's like you strike me as someone, you're really prompt, you're dialed in, you work your absolute ass off, super polished. And I'm just curious, do you think the concept of work-life balance with the type of business that you're trying to build, or for anyone that wants to do anything significant, do you think that term is bullshit? Do you think you can have it? I would just love to know your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think you can, but I do think that, you got to eat shit for a while. Am I in the position right now where I could probably work 2 hours a day or something? Yeah, probably. But, I got love for the game, man. I think that if that's what you're after, if it's a really good work-life balance that you're after, and you're going to start your own company or be some sort of salary role executive or something like that, like you better understand how to run a team, because that's how you free up your time. And by the way, your company's success, your team's success, that is way more proficient and efficient and better for a business if that's what you're focused on and you're not focused so much on the day-to-day.
Yeah.
Digitally now, I'm making sure things get done, and everything gets done because there's people in place to get it done. If I wanted to save some pennies, save some salaries, I could do it all.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's just like, if you can get people in certain specific areas and just that's all they're doing, that's your best opportunity to create beautiful work-life balance. Because as an entrepreneur, CEO, founder, whatever it may be, it's going to take a lot of time. You got to grow your business to the point where you can optimize and teach each part of it. So yeah, I would say it's unrealistic in the beginning, but it's unbelievably realistic. I don't know. It just really depends on the size of the company, but yeah, it takes a couple of years.
But there's so much wisdom in that. And I think what you're saying is like the avoidance of thinking that there's a shit eating phase or not going to be a shit eating phase is an absolute fallacy. And I feel it right now, between both of our businesses, we're at 12 employees, and it's so easy after a long day, you get home 7, 8 o'clock, and I'm like, dude, I just want to like cook a steak and just watch something and pass out. And I'm like, dude, you have like employees to pay, you're investing all your money back into the business. And then I'm just like, you know what? I'm just in the shit eating phase. This is just what I have to do. If I keep going, then I'll have the freedom, hopefully, that you've created for yourself in 4 or 5 years time. But right now, if I want to do anything substantial, it's like, I got to fucking lean in and do it.
100%, dude. That's just the nature of the game, dude. I got a wife and 2 kids, and man, at the beginning, all this, and before I even got in Carnivore Snax, like I was still working for another company, man. It's just you gotta just be willing to know that it is going to take a while. You got to have patience.
Yeah, I love that. What gets you most motivated about Carnivore Snax right now? Like outside of financial incentive, what's your big like motivational anchor that gets you popping out of bed, that just gets you fired up about what you guys are doing?
I think for me, it's what fires me up is, dude, like obviously I get to see reviews coming into our review Slack channel and stuff. It just keeps us so motivated. The things that people say about Carnivore Snax, it's like, I do expect it now because it is such a different experience and product that it just fires me up so much to want to launch new products, because dude, we haven't missed yet.
Yeah.
I think we will. I mean, we will. We just launched chicken skins, and it's different. It's a very different texture than anything we've launched. But like, it's like we get, it's the best one I've ever had, or it's not for me. That fires me up, and I've dialed in the product launch process. We have launched a product one time every single month. That is something our competitors absolutely positively cannot say. And it's just like, you hear from these customers, dude, you did it again. You knocked it out of the park. You did it again. I don't know which one to buy this time. Okay, I guess I got to buy them all. And the greatest part about that is that if everybody's going to love everything we launch, we can offer more and more stuff and buy more and more cuts from these farmers. And now we got people coming to us trying to sell us their stuff.
Dude, 100%. One of the best podcasts I've ever listened to is Jocko's podcast with his business partner, Pete Roberts, that founded Origin Jeans. The only jean company at scale where it's all US made. Cotton's grown in Georgia, cotton's grown in Texas, another fiber is grown in Georgia. They manufacture it in Maine. They're buying old shipping mills. Their thought process is like, if we're out of stock and we don't do our job, that gives another person to buy jeans from China. And when I think about what you guys are doing, it must be the best feeling saying, I provide a product that not only is it making my consumer healthier, it's also good for the environment, because we're not compromising on sourcing at all. Every dollar that you spend with us is a vote for regenerative farm too.
It's a vote for regenerative farming, and it's a vote for our country, which, I mean, look, you see the flag. I mean, we're a very, very pro-America brand, which is it's an interesting spot to be in. And when you are buying something that is supporting the environment, it's a very opposite side of the spectrum. So it's been a really interesting and proud spot to be in, that we can love our country and be a super pro-America brand and still give a shit about agriculture, animals, and
I love it. I don't know if there's a better mic drop moment than that. Mark, I'd love for our listeners, what's the best way for people to connect with you, learn more about what you got going on at Carnivore Snax?
I'm on Twitter at Ritzfit, Ritzfit. We're on Instagram, carnivore.snax. Not super active there. And you got to definitely, if you're not on the email list, pop over, get the first time discount. That's where we're super active. Super active in our Facebook group too. We've got a few thousand people there. We've got a membership program. You guys can get 5% cash back on everything that you buy. Also access to limited edition cuts. So some of the cuts that are really hard for us to source in the regenerative space, Wagyu, tenderloin, the ancestral bison sliders, that's moved into membership. So the things that are hard for us to source, you can get those pretty easily as a member. Yeah, I think that's really about it. We got an unbelievable customer support staff. Anything you ever have wrong with your product, let us know. You're taken care of. We're going to get you a replacement, something like that. And then if you need to talk to me, ask for me and I'll give you a call.
I love it, man. Well, we're fired up. We finally got we were able to get our affiliate discount code too. So we'll link to your website. We'll link to our discount code in the show notes. But more importantly, man, I know this is a long time coming. Like we said in the beginning of the episode, Harry and I are just huge admirers of what you've built. We're lucky that we're able to call you a friend now, and just appreciate you fighting the good fight. And thanks so much for coming on the show.
I appreciate it, brother. Thank you.